Hi people, it's Archivist here, and before I get on with this video I need to explain my current situation. So outside of making YouTube videos, I'm busier than I've ever been, and naturally that makes it more difficult for me to make these YouTube videos. But I don't want to stop because hey, I love doing them. So at the weekends I'm fine, I still have time to make top 10s and lore videos, you know, the ones where I spend a bit more time, but during the week it's a little bit difficult. But I have a kind of solution there, so I'm going to start making a few more low maintenance videos, but I'm going to try and keep them at a decent length, so it's still a meaty video. So you might not see the footage necessarily pertaining to what I'm talking about, but I'll do my best. So I thought, what could I do then? What will be this new kind of video? And I thought rather than doing something totally new, I'd take the idea of the weekly roundup, which I did a while back, which would go through 3 different gaming stories, and I'll do that again, but instead of just going through the facts like I did before, this time I'll give you the general headline, and then from there give an opinion related to the headline itself. So that's going to be this new kind of weekly roundup where I'm going to give my opinion on a few different topics. So the first story that caught my eye was the Shield Nvidia gaming focused Android TV set-top box. So this is something that will fit under your TV and allow you to watch 4K movies, of course, if you have a 4K TV, and even play some current gen games. So it's powered by Android, but interestingly enough, you can play games like Borderlands, let's see here, we've got Grid 2, Batman Arkham Origins, Metro Last Light, and according to Nvidia, it's going to have double the power of the Xbox 360. When I first heard about this new Nvidia Shield, I thought it would just be like another Ouya, but with perhaps a bit more grunt because Nvidia are making it. But it really seems like they've gone all out here, and in some ways, this does seem like a leap forward, not just when it comes to these TV box sets, but when it comes to gaming consoles in general. Could this be the new kind of console? Now, Nvidia have brought out 2 different kinds of Shield before, if I recall. They had the sort of handheld looking Shield where it was a controller with a screen attached. That didn't really appeal to me too much, but then they brought out the tablet, and I thought that was quite an interesting idea, just to have a very gaming focused tablet. And now they've got this TV box that allows you to stream 4K movies and play fairly demanding games. I'd like to know how powerful this is in comparison to the current gen consoles, so the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I can't find the price in pounds, but apparently it will be $200, so that's pretty cheap, you know, considering what it can play. I mean, I really do wonder how they can get away with that. Apparently it's going to be using a bleeding edge 8x1 chip, so this is Nvidia's most powerful mobile processor to date. Now when they say mobile processor, I'm wondering if they're including laptop processors in that, well, laptop GPUs in that. I'll leave that for now because I can't clarify that. So it's going to have about 16 gigabytes of internal storage, but it does seem like it's going to be a primarily streaming device, so streaming 4K movies, perhaps even streaming games. But it's also got a micro SD expansion port, so you can add more as well. And also, you can put an external hard drive into it via the USB port. So, you know, really, this thing is fine when it comes to storage if you want to upgrade it. You know, the base thing is so cheap, buying an extra hard drive or just using an old one is not going to be a problem for most people. And I think the interesting thing here is that it really does seem like the next step forward for consoles. Because if you ask people, what's the major advantage of a console over a PC? They'll say the convenience, the compatibility, everything just works for it. And what you'll notice with current gen consoles is they're getting very complex now, but that complexity is turning them almost into PCs, thereby sort of losing what made them special. But here, it looks like a very simple box with a very simple user interface, and I could definitely see myself getting one of these. I can see a lot of people. You know, it's got some good games for it that would appeal to many demographics. So you've got Lego Marvel Superheroes for the kids, and you've got, let's see here, Grid or Batman Arkham Origins or Metro for the adults. So it's got a good cover of different games. And I'm also wondering about this because if anyone owns an Nvidia graphics card here, you'll know that they implement certain techniques that aren't available for other cards. So there's HBAO+, there's TXAA anti-aliasing, and I'm wondering if that will be usable on this chip. That would be a really awesome benefit, because then it would actually have certain graphical techniques that the other consoles don't have, because I think they're using AMD chips, the current gen consoles, I believe. So I think this is a great thing. The price is very impressive, and unlike the Ouya, which I was never really drawn in by, I think the ability to play up-to-date games is very impressive indeed, and I can't wait to see this thing in action, to be honest. So that is the Nvidia Shield TV set-top box. If there are any Metal Gear Solid fans out there, you're probably, like me, really excited for Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, and you've probably played Ground Zeroes like I have. What I did was I played Ground Zeroes on the PC, and that came out a very long time after the original Ground Zeroes for the consoles. I think, over half a year it took for it to come out. And so I had a bit of a concern there that I'd have to wait yet again to play the Phantom Pain on the PC. I thought everyone's going to be so excited and talking about it, and unless I get it on the consoles, I'm going to be left waiting. But apparently it will come out a very short time after the console version. So I'm just reading here. I think it says, so it's coming out on consoles on September 1st, and it's coming out on PC, I think, on the 15th of September, which is incredible. That's a very short gap. I can absolutely wait that. I've waited for, like games like Assassin's Creed, that amount of time. In fact, if anything, there is a small benefit to that, if only like a superficial one. If you're like me, where you just want to buy a game day one because, hey, we're nerds, we just want these games. If it comes out on consoles first and reviews come out and it sucks, but I'd be very surprised if the Phantom Pain sucks, then you haven't wasted your money because you couldn't get it straight away anyway, and you listen to reviews and then you might say, oh, I don't want to get it. I don't think this is for me. So there is that little benefit there. I mean, I've got high expectations for the Phantom Pain simply because Ground Zeroes was so great. I've actually invested 8 hours into Ground Zeroes. I know that's not crazy time, but considering you can play the game and finish the the main story mission in about 40 minutes or less or more, depending on what you're doing, it's just a very fun and flexible game. The best thing about Ground Zeroes was the ability to replay it and do different things each time, because it was almost like a small open world. And I really hope that isn't lost in the Phantom Pain. I do remember when I was playing Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PlayStation 3, certain environments were pretty big, but they started to become more narrow as it went on. So you had some early ones that were very open, but some of the missions later on became a bit more linear. I mean, as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with a linear game, but the long-lasting appeal is much more in favour of the expansive, dynamic game. So that's the Phantom Pain. So good news, PC owners, we get to play it a very short time after console owners, so that's great. We'll be playing the Phantom Pain, if it isn't delayed, on September 15th. I look forward to playing that very much. So, Project Morpheus, Sony's offering when it comes to the virtual reality world, is apparently coming out in 2016. So that's a fairly concise bit of information there. We all know what we know what virtual reality is going to be doing and that. So I'm going to take my time here just to give my opinion on virtual reality. As someone who hasn't experienced it, so don't take it with a grain of salt. We've been through many times in gaming where developers have reached out to try and provide new innovative experiences. We had the motion fad, which began with the Wii and was channeled through Kinect and also the PlayStation Move, but I think it's fair to say that has now fizzled out. We've had virtual reality in the past with, I think it was the Virtual Boy by Nintendo, but to be fair, the technology just wasn't there, so they were a bit ahead of their time there. So even though that was a bit of a failure, it was too early anyway, you could say. But you have to ask yourself, will virtual reality really catch on? Because essentially what virtual reality is doing is taking the screen that you're looking at and pushing it right up to your eyes so you can't see anything else. Now, I do fear about things like this because it sounds really awesome in concept, but you wonder how long will you want to do it for? It's like, I mean, take motion gaming for example. It sounds really cool. It's like a really interesting way to interact with games, but when you come down to the hard practicality of it, do you really want to control games like World of Warcraft or Call of Duty with motion? No, because it's just more simple to play with a mouse and keyboard or play with a controller. And I do wonder if after some time with virtual reality, because I don't doubt that initially it will be amazing and fun, I wonder, will we get sick and tired of having this strapped to our face constantly? I mean, surely fatigue will set in much quicker if we're wearing a virtual reality headset. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm super excited to try any form of virtual reality. By this point, I don't care if it's Morpheus or Oculus Rift or whatever Microsoft are going to do, because they're bound to do something. I think virtual reality in general is something that everyone is going to want to try. Everyone's going to be super eager to get their hands on it, but I think it's not going to be for the long haul. I don't think it's going to replace our traditional means of gaming on a screen, be it a TV or a monitor. I think that's just in a way more convenient, you know, just if you're doing small things, for example, like what I do almost constantly when I'm gaming on the PC is just I have my laptop to the side of it watching Netflix if the game is, you know, not very story focused, or I'll be eating a snack, you know, something simple. It's these simple things that we forget actually become impossible if you're wearing a headset, because you can't see where your popcorn is, for example. You can't watch Netflix out the corner of your eye, because if you lose your peripheral vision, you can't multitask in the same way. So although I think, in fact, this is probably the best way to put it, right? For story-focused experiences where you'd anyway be focusing entirely on the screen, it's great. But for things like maybe Call of Duty or Diablo, you know, these games where you're not really focusing, you might be doing something else as well, those kind of experiences will not lend themselves to virtual reality as well, I believe. So that's just my opinion on virtual reality. I can't distinguish between the different manufacturers because we know so little of them. I think just off the bat that Project Morpheus does indeed look like the coolest. But yes, to recap what I'm talking about here, Project Morpheus is set to launch sometime in 2016, so let's look forward to that. Okay, so thank you for watching the weekly roundup. If you have anything to say on the topics I've mentioned, please do comment below. I love to hear people's opinions. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.